welcome to our egg cutting video 2023. We're very excited to come in today and do an egg cutting video to see what has been the result of this year's breeding project here at Snake Club. And this one's a little bit of an unknown one because it's one of those clutches that could be a dual side clutch. We don't know who the father's going to be. And so I'm just going to show you now, talk you through the different genes that we've got in play with both parents, with Doris and then with Reggie and potentially Mouse. We're not sure which of the male snakes is going to be the father. So we'll have a look at those first and then we'll come back in a second and we'll have a look at what we've got this year.
Okay, so here we have the female. This is Doris, and about 60 days ago she laid 8 eggs for us, and you can see she's managed to put most of her body weight back on after doing that. She's looking really healthy, feeding really well at the moment. Doris has 3 different alleles or genes, these genetic mutations that she carries, that she passes to her offspring. And if you remember, if you watched last year's video, you would have been introduced to some of these. So the first is pastel, and pastel tends to change the colour of the snake. It makes it much brighter and changes the colour from a kind of a gold to a brighter yellow. It also tends to change the pattern on the head. So if I just get closer to her face, she's looking a little bit interested. She's got white lips just above her heat pits there. You'll see the males won't have that in a minute. And she's also got a bit of a blushed out head stamp as well. The top of her head is normally dark, but you can see it's kind of faded and blushed out at the top. She's got 2 other genes in the mix as well. She's got the yellow belly gene, which tends to cause a brightening of the yellows, but also produces these flames down the sides of the black bands. You can see this kind of flame pattern coming up. That's characteristic of yellow belly. And the 3rd gene that she's got in the mix here is orange dream, and the orange dream gene tends to again amplify the colour, change the saturation, makes the darks and the blacks much blacker, but it also tends to change the banding towards the end of the tail. You can see it starts to spread out, the difference between these stripes, and there's a bit of a change in the pattern towards the end of the tail as well. She's just coming to investigate to find out what we're doing here. So she's a really gorgeous animal, and we'll have a look at the 2 males that she's locked with this season to see what we're going to look for genetic wise in the offspring, to try and find out who the dad was in this particular clutch. Okay, so introducing male number 1. This is Mouse, and Mouse is so named because he's very shy. He's a very timid animal, and he tends to spend most of his time curled up in a ball. He's just starting to explore a little bit now. He also only really feeds exclusively on mice. He doesn't eat rats at all. He's also got a slight squeak to him when he breathes in and out, so we thought Mouse was a rather apt name for him. Mouse was brought in initially into our breeding program to add some slightly more interesting genetics to the mix. Mouse carries 2, possibly 3 different genetic mutations. The first of which is really clear and obvious, which is called the banana gene, and you can see why it's called banana, because it produces these really bright yellows and oranges. They're faded a little bit now, but I'll put a picture up of what he was like as a hatchling, and you'll see just how bright those colours were. There's bright oranges and yellows, and even some purples and different colours in the mix when they're first hatched. So banana is a co-dominant or incomplete dominant gene, I should say, which means that it is always expressed. Even if there's only 1 copy of it, the offspring will always express that particular trait, so it'll be very easy to spot. Mouse is also carrying a recessive gene called clown, which produces these teardrop patterns down the side of the snake. And clown is a recessive gene, which means that it is only ever expressed if the offspring receive 2 copies of that particular mutation. So what has to happen in order for that, for the offspring to have the clown trait, is they need to get 1 gene from the mum and 1 gene from the dad. Now, unfortunately, in this combination, only Mouse is going to be providing that 1 copy. So the offspring in this year's season will all be carriers of that particular clown gene. They'll be what's known as heterozygous, or het for clown. They'll only have 1 copy of it. They'll be what's known as 100% het for clown. So we won't see this clown mutation in any of the offspring, but we know that all of the offspring will be carriers of that gene, which will make them very useful for future breeding projects further down the line. The 3rd gene that Mouse may be carrying, and again we're not 100% sure with this one, is the gene called fire. Now fire is quite a subtle colour mutation, on its own, it tends to just make the snake look a little bit paler and a bit creamier, and the colours are a little bit softer. It's harder to spot in other combinations with other genes, but the breeder who we got mouse from identified fire when it was a hatchling. He's doing a nice little yawn for us there. So he wasn't sure, but we'll see if there's any offspring that look like they may have fire, and that will confirm whether mouse has that gene as well. So mouse managed to lock with Doris twice this season. Took him a little bit of time to get settled in and get started, so he didn't lock with her until February, but we got a lock in Feb, and we also got a lock in April, which is quite an important one because it was the last one before she ovulated. So it's quite possible that mouse may have got the job done and may be the father of this year's clutch. But let's take a look at Reggie, the other male, and this will help us to kind of identify who the dad was and what genes we have in our offspring. Okay, and here we have Reggie. Reggie was the original male that we first picked up back in 2021. He started this whole adventure off, and he is a single gene yellow belly. He is the father of last year's clutch, and the fact that he carries the yellow belly gene really means that he looks pretty much very similar to what a royal python would look like in the wild, apart from a few slight changes. You can notice just down the sides of his back here, you can see there's a little bit of flaming going on, some of that pattern blushing you can see on his stripes. There's also a bit of change to the belly markings that you can't quite see here, and a slight little dot on the top of his head. Those are some of the telltale signs that you've got a yellow belly. And what we had to do this year was to bring Reggie in as a backup male, because it took mouse quite a few months before he started locking with Doris. So in order to kind of speed the process along and to get Doris ovulating, Reggie locked with Doris on 2 occasions. And so it's a little bit of anyone's guess as to who the father's going to be for this year's clutch. The way that we'll tell is by looking at the morphs or the colours of the animals that are produced, because if you combine 2 yellow belly genes, as we did last year, Doris and Reggie both carry yellow belly, there is a 1 in 4 chance that you can produce one of these. She's just creeping into shot here. This is Elsa, and this is one of the offspring that we produced in last year's breeding program. She is an all-white snake known as an ivory, and this is what's produced when an animal inherits 2 copies of this yellow belly mutation. She's a very, very beautiful animal, and you can see just how much she's grown over the last 12 months. When we first produced her, she was about 50 grams. She's now well over 1,000, so massive increase in size, and she's well on her way to becoming, to reaching adulthood really. Still got quite a bit of growing to do. Females can get up to about 5 foot, but she is, yeah, she's done a huge amount of growing, and she's feeding really, really well. So yeah, essentially what we're going to be doing in the next few minutes is just having a little look at the eggs that we've got. We will do an egg cutting and see what different patterns we've got, what colours we've got, and then essentially asking the question of who is the father of this year's hatchlings.
Okay, right. Well, as you can tell, we're very, very excited. This feels a bit like Christmas. We're going to take each egg one at a time, and we're going to just make a little window, a little kind of opening to ensure that all the snakes can get out safely. This isn't something that you have to do, but it's just something that's often done in the hobby, just to make sure, to try and reduce the risk of any complications in the last few stages of their development. So you can see this year we've got 8 healthy eggs from Doris, our female, and you can see we've already cut into one just to check, just to make sure that everything was looking okay. So this was our first of the 8 that were cut open, and if you look very carefully, you should be able to see that here we've got what looks like, we've definitely got banana. So this is a banana male. The reason we know that it's a male is that the banana gene is actually carried on one of the X chromosomes. So this is a sex-linked gene, so that means that every snake that we get that is this colour should be a male, which is quite cool. So this should be a little boy, but we'll kind of verify that in a few weeks' time once he's come out of the egg. So this is our first little banana. It looks like there's some other genes in the mix there as well, but we won't know for certain until he's come out of the egg, so we'll have to wait and see to find out what exactly is going on there. So let's have a look and see what else we've got here. So I'm going to just take each egg and just gently roll the side of one, just to make sure there's no veins and we don't risk nipping the snake. So just make a small little incision at the top of the egg. Snake eggs like this are really, really soft. Not
like chicken eggs at all. Let's have a little look at what we've got here. And it looks like we've got another little banana. So again, most likely a boy. And again, similar to the last one, it's difficult to tell whether there is anything else there. Like we said, there could be pastel, could be orange dream, yellow belly, and fire all potentially in the mix here. So it's quite likely that we'll get a combination of all of those. The cool thing about these bananas as well is that we know that Mouse is definitely the dad of these ones, and so therefore all of these are going to be 100% het for clown. They're all going to be carriers of the clown gene, just like their dad. So that's number 2. Let's have a look at number 3. I think Mouse is definitely the dad of this clutch. It's going to be getting messy because we have another banana. So, just open this one a bit more. Okay, just see the little head sticking out there if you look carefully. There he is. And again, this should be another boy. So we're doing very well in terms of the odds so far. 3 for 3. Okay, now this one straight away is not a banana. You can tell straight away because of the fact that we've got some blacks. So this one looks interesting. See the yolk at the bottom there, so it's not fully absorbed the yolk yet, so this one needs to see a few more days, but this looks like possibly either an orange dream or a straight normal actually. Come back to that one in a bit, there's something going on there, it's a bit interesting. Right, so if you're looking at this one straight away, and I suspect this may not have a snake in it at all. If it does, it's going to be very, very, very undeveloped. So you can see how at the bottom here we've got a bit of discoloration. It's not gone mouldy as such, but it doesn't quite look right. So I suspect we may not have a snake in here at all. Let's have a little look. Very small little snake. So it just shows how resilient these animals are, even with tiny egg, even with what looked like a bit of a dodgy shell actually. This guy seems to be okay. Maybe just see if that's his head. Let's just see if we can move it. Yeah, it's definitely moving, responsive. Very small. You kind of forget how small these things are when they first hatch. So yeah, it's amazing, really. Number 5. So again, that looks to me like possibly one of the other, possibly a fire. Looking at that, it's quite bright, that one. So yeah, it's difficult to tell with anything that isn't an arm at this point. Number 6 now. We have another banana. This one looks very pale. There's another banana, another boy. And you can see straight away that there's some flaming going on the sides of his belly. Very, very pale, so it makes me think possibly yellow belly, possibly pastel as well. So again, wait and see. So, doing really, really well with the odds. 4 bananas out of the 8 so far, and the final 2 eggs. The most important thing really is that they're all healthy and all doing okay, which is what we want. So this next one. This one's another non-banana, so this one should be a female. If you look carefully, you can just see his eye, or her eye, coming out there. She is. Gloopy. And now this one looks really interesting. This one looks like it could be orange dream, possible for some other genes in there. Can't really see their head very well. But yeah, like I said, once these have all come out the egg, we'll have a much better chance of identifying getting a feel for what they are. But yeah, definitely not banana, so it must be a girl. And yeah, whole range of different genes that could be in the mix. That one. Okay, and here we have, last but not least, again another one that looks a little bit funky on the outside, but again, that's more a minute ago than anything together. I should hopefully have something in here. Let's have a look. This one's belly up, so I can't actually see. I don't think it's banana, but I don't think it's yellow belly because it's not got any pattern on its belly at all. I think it's possibly pastel, but I can't see its head. I think this might be its chin, but it's upside down. It's definitely wriggling. But yeah, I'm completely on the wise with that one. But we know, for so far, this is definitely Mouse's clutch. I don't think we've got any. It's not definitely not got any eyebrows, which makes it quite likely that all of these are Mouse's, and therefore that all of them are het for clown. Which means if we were to pair them with another animal that's het for clown, we would be maybe 1 in 4 chance of having a clown produced in the future. So really, really exciting. And it's great to see that all of them are doing well, all of them are healthy, and looking forward to them coming out the egg over the next week or so. Once they're out the egg, we'll get them into a container, we'll let them shed, and we'll start offering them food. Just like last year really, all these eggs will be up for sale in the summer term, so we're really looking forward to seeing you all in September, for you to come in. Hopefully by the time we come back into school, these guys should be ready and should be available to come and see. And yeah, we're really, really thrilled with the results that we've got in this year's clutch. So have a great summer everyone, and we'll see you in September.